The case of alleged killer Geng Quangrong. He is accused of murdering Buhari Ummukulsum Buhari, 22, was allegedly fatally stabbed by the 47-year-old textile businessman on September 16 at their shared residence in Jambulo Quarters, Kano State. He has been charged with culpable homicide. According to earlier reports, he admitted to the crime and said that Buhari had violated her engagement vows, despite the fact that he had spent money on her. This was not a reason to murder this young lady, and he did not care about anything other than seeking revenge against her by doing such a cruel act. The departed mother stated that Mr. Geng came to their home and thumped at the entryway quickly around 8 p.m. and later restrained himself into the house around 9 p.m. When inside the house, the Chinese man pushed his way through into the room of Ummukulsum and cut her to death. A Chinese man cuts Nigerian sweetheart Ummukulsum Buhari to death in Kano. When we became weary of his actions, I went out to advise him to keep off our property, yet he pushed and went straight into her room and killed her, the mother said. We then started yelling, and neighbors acted as heroes and captured him. She was promptly taken to a medical clinic, where she was subsequently declared dead. Geng had been dating Ummukulsum for a long time before he asked her to marry him. However, she was already in another relationship prior to meeting Geng. But her marriage crashed as of late after her significant other found her visits with Geng on her telephone and thought they were all the while dating. Once more, after the separation, Geng returned. However, Ms. Buhari didn't want to consider marrying Geng at this point. So now, after she rejected his desire to marry her, this was the outcome. We should sit and watch what truly occurred and the outcomes. A Chinese man recognized as Geng Quangrong has purportedly cut his darling, a 23-year-old woman named Ummukulsum, to death at Jambulo Quarters, Kombatso neighborhood government area of Kano. Ummi was a youthful Nigerian woman who was on a one-year mission to help Nigeria with the Public Youth Administration Corps, NYSC. The ex-Ummukulsum Buhari was an inhabitant of the Jambulo area of Kano City. The police in Kano affirmed the occurrence through its representative, SP Abdullahi Haruna Kaiwa, who made sense of the fact that the suspect, Geng, 47, committed the wrongdoing on Friday in the wake of scaling the wall of the departed home to get entrance, where he wounded her severely until she surrendered the soul. Geng claimed that he was deluded by Ummu, who was his sweetheart and vowed to wed him, yet double-crossed him even after he had burned through such a lot of cash on her. The suspect additionally expressed that he was maddened by her trickiness and chose to assault and kill her at her home. The police representative further expressed that the mother of the departed raised caution during the demonstration, and the police were promptly alarmed by the advancement, where the chief of police, Abubakar Lawan, coordinated the DPO, Durai Baba, to assume responsibility for the circumstance. Dang has since been moved to the State Central Command at Bompai for additional examination and arraignment. In the meantime, late Ummu has been covered Saturday morning in Kano as the relatives and companions grieve her abrupt flight. Geng Quangrong will be served Chinese food, that is the very thing the regulation gives. Several things have caused Geng's arraignment to be postponed, most recently the absence of an interpreter. Under Nigerian law, an accused individual has the right to speak in a language they are familiar with. Gwakumru, an interpreter from the Chinese embassy in Nigeria, assisted Geng on Thursday by translating from Chinese to English. After the charges were read to the suspect, he entered a not guilty plea, according to the Nigerian Tribune. Everything that Mr. Geng said to me before Ummuda's supposed homicide, a house help. Mr. Geng Quangrong, a resident of China, is blamed for killing Ummukulsum Buhari. Predominantly known as Ummuda, she was at her Jambulo home in Gwale, a nearby government area of Kano State, last Friday, telling the 21st Century narrative that, she had seen that her manager had given indications of discouragement for quite a long time as he seemed stressed. The house helper who talked about the state of namelessness uncovered that Mr. Geng, who lives in Nasarawa GRA in the Nasarawa nearby government region of the state's city, has been an extremely good-humored individual who keeps an exceptionally deadbeat profile. She made sense of that on the reliable day he had called her and, furthermore, called his security man, telling them not to report for duty the next day just for her to peruse the miserable story of a supposed homicide, including her chief. He told me that I shouldn't come to work the following day, and I later discovered that he had additionally called his safety officer and let him know exactly the same thing. It was toward the beginning of the day that I saw his image via online entertainment and learned that he has been engaged with a homicide case, she uncovered. As she indicated, she had seen that her supervisor wasn't acting naturally for a long time, adding that he had been displaying indications of discouragement for a long time. He has never been antagonistic to me or to anybody that I know, she said. Mr. Geng is supposed to be a finance manager managing materials at the popular Canton Quarry material market. Quangrong was summoned under the steady gaze of the court by the Kano State Police Chief on a one-count charge of guilty murder in opposition to Segment 221 of the Correctional Code. The preliminary judge, Hanif Yusuf, requested his remand in jail authority and forthcoming legitimate counsel from the State Service of Equity. It would be reviewed that Geng Quangrong, 47, of Nasarawa GRA Quarters Kano, was claimed to have gone to the home of Ummukulsum Buhari, 22, on September 16, 2022, and went after her with a sharp blade, causing profound cuts to her neck and other pieces of her body, prompting her passing. He was captured and kept by the police. Geng's arraignment was slowed down 3 weeks after the Safeguard legal counselor, lawyer Mohammed Danazami, guaranteed his client ought to be conceded consent to connect with an expert translator to decipher the language of the court to his primary language. Danazami believed the court should give Geng the option of delivering an expert translator that would interpret the language of the court into Mandarin, one of the Chinese authority lingos. Albeit the arraigning lawyer didn't protest the interest in a translator, advocate Mama Lawan threatened the court with an earlier application to the Chinese consulate in Nigeria, mentioning something very similar. Equity Sanusi Adu Maaji dismissed the arraignment of the blamed individual and conceded the application for protection counsel. This is a sad story that shouldn't have happened. This killer, Geng, took this young lady's innocence because of his greed and personal issues in life. Amida should have been enjoying her youth and working on her career and school, not being bothered with this type of stuff.